Yeah, it says mostly original paint in the description. This Camelo, 15 years in prison. Okay. Why? It all started with one car. Not just any car, but the dream car that most people want. A Mustang. Richard Rawlings, a well-known guy in the car world who's famous for making super-fast cars and turning old beat-up cars into amazing rides, is now dealing with a big court case. This time, people aren't talking about a cool new car he built or a huge sale, but instead, he's in a courtroom with a gas monkey. Garage name written on the court papers. What went wrong? What did Richard Rawlings have to say about this mess? Let's find out, Richard. Rawlings was born on March 30th, 1969 in Fort Worth, Texas. Richie was not a quiet kid. He had a curious mind, a strong will, and loved anything that moved fast and made loud, roaring sounds. From when he was really little, he loved cars, not just the shiny new ones on the street, but even the broken, rusty ones left to fall apart in junkyards. He would stare at them, thinking about what they could look like if someone gave them one more chance. That someone ended up being him, while other kids played with action figures or watched cartoons. Richard was in the driveway, watching his dad fix up old cars. His father wasn't a real mechanic, but he loved cars and had enough tools sitting around to get Richard really interested. Richard paid attention to every moment, asking questions, holding flashlights, and slowly learning how engines worked. It didn't take long before he wanted to build something of his own. He started collecting junk from trash piles, old bikes, broken lawnmowers, and anything that had wheels or motor. Piece by piece, he built something that looked like a car that wasn't pretty, but it moved. For Richard, that was everything. His school years were filled with daydreams about speed and building things. He went to Eastern Hills High School, where his love for cars got louder than his interest in textbooks. He wasn't the kind of student who wanted to sit still and memorize facts. Instead, Richard always wanted to build, to fix, and to race. There was something exciting about taking something old, forgotten, and turning it into something powerful. Even when he was a teenager, Richard had a hustler's heart and a creative mind. He was already buying and selling cars before he even had a license to drive them. Legally, Richard's life was never about playing it safe. After high school, he worked different jobs, including firefighter, police officer, and paramedic, but none of those uniforms felt quite right. The only place truly felt like himself was under the hood of a car, surrounded by grease, speed, and possibility. He knew he was meant to do something bigger, something louder, something that had wheels, risk, and big dreams. Luckily, what started as a little boy's love for broken metal and thrown away parts later turned into a name that car lovers everywhere know. The Monkey Garage, a place where his passion and imagination could finally be poured into real machines, a place where the engines were never quiet and the energy never seemed to slow down. The Gas Monkey Garage. The story of the Gas Monkey Garage started in Dallas, Texas in the early 2000s. At the center of it all was Richard Rawlings, a man with a dream that many people laughed at. In 2002, Richard made that dream come true when he started the garage. It wasn't built with fancy stuff or millions of dollars. It was built on passion, never giving up, and the deep belief that cars could be more than just machines. For Richard, they were works of art waiting to be brought back to life. In those early days, money was tight. Richard put everything he had into the garage. Rent was due, parts cost a lot, and nobody knew if it would work. There were times when he had to dig deep into his pockets just to keep the lights on. People around him didn't see what he saw. They looked at him like he had lost his mind, picking through garbage and scrap heaps, trying to build what they jokingly called his dream cars. Some even told him to give up and find a more steady job. But Richard never listened to the negativity. He believed in his work and the value of giving forgotten cars a second chance. With each car that came into the shop, Richard saw possibility. He worked long hours, often staying late into the night. The team was small, the tools were basic, but the drive was unstoppable. At first, the garage focused on fixing up classic American cars. The muscle The power and the style of old models spoke to something deep inside car lovers, and Richard knew exactly how to bring out the best in them, but it was hard to get noticed. The market was crowded, and big brands already had loyal customers. Richard had something many others didn't: grit and creativity. Slowly but surely, the Gas Monkey Garage started making a name for itself. They weren't just fixing up cars, they were turning junk into gold. One by one, amazing builds rolled out of the garage doors. These weren't ordinary makeovers, they were bold, fast, loud, and built with heart. Among the first cars that caught the public eye was a 1968 Mustang Fastback that had been left to rot. The team brought it back to life with modern upgrades, stunning paint and performance that made people turn their heads. Then came the 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS, a beast of a car that mixed raw power with custom design. Each successful build added to the growing reputation of the garage car. Fans started to talk, blogs started to write about them. Slowly, the orders increased, and so did the money, from Camaros to Challengers, from old trucks to custom hot rods. The Gas Monkey Garage made masterpiece after masterpiece. What made them stand out wasn't just how good the work was, but the attitude behind it. Richard made sure that the story was told in the design. As word spread, so the demand. Sales started to go through the roof. In just a few years, the garage had grown from a struggling startup to a successful business. Richard's gamble had paid off. The same people who once made fun of him now wanted to work with him. His builds weren't just selling, they were selling fast and often at jaw-dropping prices. Some of the garage's custom cars went for over $100,000, depending on the design and how rare the model was. Collectors and car lovers from across the country wanted a piece of what Richard was creating. The garage got a reputation for its aggressive styling, sleek finishes, and bold customizations. They would often strip a car down to its bare frame and rebuild it from the ground up. No shortcuts, just pure passion and skill. Thankfully, Richard's hard work and determination paid off, and the company had one of its most successful runs with a 1967 Pontiac Firebird that had modern technology inside a fully restored classic shell. It sold within days of being finished and became a fan favorite through hard work and never giving up. The Gas Monkey Garage became more than just a business. It proved that even when everyone else doubts you, staying true to your vision can change everything. Richard often said that it was never about the money, but about building something meaningful. The numbers spoke for themselves. The garage was making strong profits and gaining loyal customers from all walks of life. But it wasn't just car fans who took notice. The buzz around the garage caught the attention of people outside the car world. Celebrities started reaching out. Actors, athletes, musicians, and even business tycoons wanted to work with Richard and his team. They wanted the kind of builds that made people stop and stare. They wanted cars that told a story, that stood out on any road, and that carried the spirit of the Gas Monkey Garage. Some of these high-profile clients spent more on a single car than most people would on a home. The garage was no longer just a local shop in Texas. It had become a destination, a place where the famous and wealthy came to turn their dreams into metal, rubber, and horsepower. Richard had done more than build cars. He had built a brand, and it was stronger than ever. From a humble dream born in a small Texas shop to a powerhouse recognized by stars and collectors alike, the rise of the Gas Monkey Garage is nothing short of legendary. Every build, every sale, and every happy customer is a reminder of how far they have come. The garage is now not only a symbol of creativity and skill, but also a reflection of Richard's never-give-up spirit. Because of this fame, success, and attention, celebrities couldn't resist jumping on board. They started buying some of the most awesome builds the garage had to offer. Curious to know who these big names are and just how much they spent on their custom rides? You are about to find out. Famous faces behind Gas Monkey rides. As Gas Monkey Garage grew from a small startup into one of the most well-known custom car brands in the country. It started attracting more than just local fans and loyal car lovers. The roar of their builds caught the ears of the rich and famous. Suddenly, Hollywood stars, musicians, and athletes were sliding into Richard Rawlings' inbox, asking for builds that matched their bold personalities and deep pockets. One of the most talked about celebrity purchases came from the legendary musician slash guitarist from Guns N' Roses, known for his wild energy and love for the classics, slash picked up a heavily customized 1969 Chevrolet Camaro from Gas Monkey Garage. The build complete with a jet black outside, custom leather inside, and a roaring 600 horsepower engine cost him around $1,100. It was a head turner in every way, and it fit the rocker's style perfectly. Another big name who wanted in was actor Charlie Sheen. Known for his love of speed and fancy things, Charlie reached out to Richard to design a car that would stand out on the streets of Los Angeles. He ended up buying a 1970 Dodge Charger, Dan, a fully restored beast with a modern suspension and hand-stitched. Inside, the build was said to cost nearly $125,000. According to Richard, Charlie didn't flinch at the price. He just wanted something that screamed power and style, and that's exactly what he got. Several high-profile athletes, including NFL players and boxing champions, ordered custom cars from the garage. These buyers often wanted bigger builds, such as lifted trucks or muscle cars with fancy paint jobs. Some of these cars sold for over $150,000, depending on the upgrades and personal touches requested. Richard and his team had a way of giving each client something that felt personal and exclusive. The attention to detail, the custom bodywork, and the cutting-edge performance parts made every car feel like a one-of-a-kind piece of art. Then there were the mystery buyers, wealthy collectors, who wanted to keep their names out of the press. They would fly in, privately meet Richard behind closed doors, and drive away in builds that cost well over $200,000. One buyer reportedly spent $300,000 on a pair of fully customized classic Mustangs, each one built from the frame up with racing-level engines, handcrafted dashboards, and imported leather seats. Another unnamed celebrity, known only to Richard and his close circle, bought a hot rod inspired by old dragsters. The price, $225,000 paid in full before the build even started. There were also stories of buyers from overseas who shipped their cars across oceans, just to have them transformed by Gas Monkey Garage. Some of these international builds included old Ferraris, Jaguars, and even custom BMWs, all brought in by collectors who trusted Richard's eye more than anyone else's. These foreign buyers often covered shipping and customization fees, sometimes totaling over $350,000 for a single project to meet the rising demand. The team at Gas Monkey Garage expanded their crew, brought in more mechanics, designers, and builders, and made their build process smoother without ever cutting corners, creating daring, beautiful cars that appealed to the buyer's soul. And the garage's spirit was still the goal, whether it was a Hollywood Alistair or a Texas rancher with cash to burn. Everyone wanted a piece of the magic. But while custom cars were at the heart of the business, Richard Rawlings was never just about cars. He had the mind of a businessman and the instincts of a showman. With the success of Gas Monkey Garage, he started branching out, building a brand that could reach beyond motor oil and steel. In 2014, Richard took a bold step and entered the drink. He partnered with a Dallas-based craft brewery to launch the Gas Monkey Garage beer, a bold, smooth lager that quickly became popular among fans of the show and beyond. The branding was classic. Richard loud, fun, and unforgettable. The beer was sold at major events, concerts, festivals, and of course, his line of bars and grills known as Gas Monkey Bar and Grill. The beer was more than just a side business. It was a statement. Richard wanted people to feel like part of the Gas Monkey lifestyle, even if they never stepped foot inside the garage. Whether you were watching the races, hosting a barbecue, or just relaxing after work, cracking open a cold Gas Monkey beer gave fans a taste of the brand's rugged charm. It was well received to local and regional distribution picked up quickly, and soon enough, the beer found its way into stores and bars across several states. Richard was smart. Every new product he launched, every partnership he agreed to, was aimed at expanding the reach of Gas Monkey. He turned his shop into a movement, with fans wearing Gas Monkey shirts, drinking Gas Monkey beer, and even traveling across the country just to snap a photo in front of the garage. The move into lifestyle products was another smart chapter in Richard's story. He knew that not everyone could afford a $100,000 car, but anyone could buy a shirt or a drink. It was a way to let people belong, to feel connected to the roaring engines and chrome dreams, even from far away. For those who could afford the cars, it only made their love for the brand stronger. What Richard did best was make his brand feel alive. It was fast, wild, and unapologetic. When celebrities got involved, it only pushed the energy higher. Social media exploded every time a famous face showed off their new Gas Monkey ride. The garage's name became a magnet for attention, and Richard was always ready with something fresh to offer. Then came the cameras, the moment that took Gas Monkey Garage from a successful custom shop to an international television sensation. There was a story being told that the entire world wanted to see behind the scenes of all the crazy builds, celebrity buys, and growing side businesses. Curious to know what went on behind the scenes? Want to find out what made Fast and Loud one of the most talked about shows? Then stay tuned. Fast and Loud show. By the early 2000s, Richard Rawlings had already made waves in the car world with his wild custom builds and larger-than-life personality. But it wasn't until television came knocking that his face and name became known in homes around the globe. That breakthrough moment came in 2012 when the Discovery Channel launched a brand new reality series built around Richard and his team. At Gas Monkey Garage, they called it Fast and Loud, and it turned the garage into a global phenomenon. The show wasn't your average car restoration program. It had an energy that was loud, fast, and unpredictable, just like the cars it featured. Each episode followed Richard and his crew as they searched across the country for beat-up classic cars, often forgotten and left to rust in barns or backyards. Once found, these cars were hauled back to the Dallas garage, stripped down and rebuilt into sleek, high-powered machines ready to hit the road or the auction block. What made Fast and Loud different wasn't just the builds, it was the personalities. Richard was front and center, always full of charm, wit, and wild ideas. He had a knack for negotiating good deals and was never afraid to push boundaries or take risks. Alongside him was Aaron Kaufman, the bearded mechanical genius who often brought a more grounded, methodical presence to the chaos. Their chemistry was electric. Viewers loved watching them clash and work together as they raced against tight deadlines and chased big paydays. The show was an instant hit. It brought in millions of viewers every week and quickly became one of the Discovery Channel's most popular shows. People were hooked on the thrill of the hunt, the beauty of the transformations, and the drama that came with managing a growing business. Richard's ability to turn junk into gold was inspiring, and his passion for cars was contagious. Fast and Loud also offered a behind-the-scenes look at how a custom garage worked. It wasn't always clean or easy. There were arguments, setbacks, failed builds, and unexpected expenses. But through it all, Richard never lost his drive. He wanted to show the world that old cars could be brought back to life with the right vision and a great deal of effort. As the seasons rolled on, the stakes got higher, the cars got rarer, the builds became more ambitious, and the audience continued to grow. The show expanded beyond the borders of the United States, gaining fans in Europe, Asia, and South America. Richard became a global figure in the car world, recognized everywhere. From auto shows to airports, the success of Fast and Loud wasn't just measured in ratings. It opened up a floodgate of new opportunities for Richard and his brand. Suddenly, Gas Monkey wasn't just a garage. it was a full-fledged empire. Merchandise sales went through the roof. Tour buses lined up outside the garage. Fans drove hundreds of miles just to catch a glimpse of where the magic happened. The exposure also led to crossovers and special appearances. Richard showed up on talk shows, news segments, and even guest starred on other reality programs. He used the platform to grow other branches of his business, including the Gas Monkey Bar and Grill and his beer partnership. Everywhere he went, the Gas Monkey name followed behind the camera. Richard worked tirelessly to keep the show fresh and exciting. He introduced new crew members, explored different car cultures, and even traveled abroad to find unique builds. He understood that the show's strength wasn't just in the cars, but in the stories behind them. Each car came with a history. Each build came with a challenge, and Richard made sure that every episode gave the audience something to care about. At its peak, Fast and Loud ran for 16 seasons, with well over 100 episodes. It left a lasting impact on car culture and inspired many new builders and mechanics to chase their dreams. Young fans watched the show and imagined themselves behind the wheel or at the welding bench. Auto shops and trade schools saw a spike in interest. Richard had done more than build cars. He had built a legacy. But, as with all good things, the show eventually came to an end in 2020. Richard announced that Fast and Loud would not be returning for another season. He explained that he wanted to take his brand in new directions and explore new opportunities for fans. It felt like the end of an era. The garage would still be there, but the weekly thrill of watching Richard wheel and deal and hustle would be missed. Even though the camera stopped rolling, the impact continued. Its reruns remained popular, and fans remained loyal. Richard's name stayed in the headlines. He had become more than a TV star. He was a symbol of grit, ambition, and bold thinking. He had taken his childhood passion, fueled it, and turned it into something that touched millions. The influence of Fast and Loud could still be seen in car shows around the world. The fast cuts, the dramatic music, the wild builds, and the colorful characters. All of it could be traced back to what Richard started in that Dallas garage. He showed that you didn't need a fancy suit or a scripted smile to build a media empire. Sometimes all it takes is a love for engines, a sharp business mind, and a courage to be yourself on camera. Of course, with all the fame and fortune, the spotlight also brought its share of shadows. Richard's bold personality, unfiltered opinions, and aggressive business tactics started to raise eyebrows. Some questioned his decisions, and others raised complaints. Soon enough, headlines shifted from success stories to controversy. Curious to know what happened? When the camera stopped rolling. From heated disputes to courtroom drama, get ready to uncover the controversies that shook Richard Rawlings' world. Controversies and lawsuits. Notably, Richard Rawlings, the well-known face behind the car empire Gas Monkey Garage, has not only built cars and established a global brand, but also faced his fair share of public and legal controversies. With fame comes scrutiny, and Rawlings has experienced it all, from business disputes to bizarre internet rumors that claimed he had been sentenced to prison. Though not all these stories are based in fact, the spotlight has certainly followed him beyond the garage floor. One of the most notable controversies Richard Rawlings was involved in came from a business partnership gone wrong in 2013. Rawlings made an agreement with Daniel Flaherty, a managing partner, who helped open the Gas Monkey Bar and Grill in Dallas, Texas. The restaurant and music venue was one of Rawlings' ventures to extend the Gas Monkey brand beyond custom cars and television, aiming to create a lifestyle experience for fans and visitors. Things looked promising at the beginning. The bar carried the signature edge and style that Rawlings had become famous for, and it attracted large crowds. But by the year 2018, that business relationship had fallen apart. Daniel Flaherty filed a $6 million lawsuit against Rawlings, accusing him of defamation and contract interference. According to court documents, Flaherty claimed that Rawlings had made repeated attempts to sabotage the business, including disparaging comments to partners and efforts to destroy The bar's reputation flirty argued that Rawlings wanted out of the agreement and was willing to damage the brand to achieve that. Richard Rawlings didn't stay silent. In 2019, he filed a $1 million countersuit. He alleged that the Gas Monkey Bar and Grill continued to use the Gas Monkey name and trademarks without his approval after the original licensing agreement had expired. Rawlings also argued that the bar promoted events that didn't align with the values or image of the Gas Monkey. Brands such as burlesque shows and parties that featured heavy alcohol consumption, attracting negative publicity. According to Rawlings, these promotions misrepresented what Gas Monkey stood for, and damaged his reputation in the process of the courtroom. Drama was intense, with both sides presenting evidence and making harsh claims. Ultimately, the two parties settled out of court as part of the agreement. The bar was rebranded and renamed Amplified Live in 2021, cutting ties with the Gas Monkey name for good, although the full terms of the settlement remained confidential. The result marked a clear separation between Rawlings and the once co-branded establishment of Rawlings Built Gas Monkey with sweat and steel. But the restaurant world proved to be a very different battlefield. Beyond this documented legal battle, Rawlings has also been the target of numerous online rumors and bizarre claims. One particularly wild story that made rounds on internet forums and clickbait websites was that Richard Rawlings had been sued and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Some versions of the rumor suggested he had been charged with fraud, while others implied something far more serious involving criminal activities. These rumors spread quickly, fueled by misleading headlines and edited videos that gave the illusion of a courtroom conviction. But there is absolutely no official record, news report, or legal filing to support these claims. Rawlings has never served time in prison, let alone received a 15-year sentence. Most of these stories appear to be completely made up and are likely part of a broader trend of targeting celebrities with outrageous lies for clicks and views. While Rawlings has occasionally joked about these rumors, they also point to a downside of fame. Despite all the noise and legal hurdles, Richard Rawlings has remained a powerful presence in the car world. His ventures continue to grow, including the expansion of his energy drink brand and international car events. But controversies like the Gas Monkey Bar and Grill lawsuit have left a permanent mark on his journey. Some critics argue that Rawlings has become more focused on the celebrity side of his business than the cars themselves. Others admire his resilience and his willingness to stand up for what he believes his brand should represent, regardless of public opinion. There's no denying that Richard Rawlings knows how to bounce back, whether from a failed partnership or a viral rumor. The public continues to watch closely, with Rawlings being a figure who sparks strong opinions. It is no surprise that he often trends online, sometimes for his builds, sometimes for his bold personality, and sometimes because someone started a wild rumor that caught fire on social media. Rawlings seems unfazed by it all. He moves forward with each controversy, never losing sight of the bigger picture. Perhaps that is the secret to his longevity, the ability to keep turning the wheel even when the road is filled with bumps. Now the question turns to you. Do you think Richard Rawlings handled his legal battles with integrity? Or do you believe there are more secrets under the hood than we know? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more content before you go watch the other videos on your screen.